Discover how his incredible transformation unfolded after his wife blocked him on her solo trip. Robert's life, once a predictable rhythm of lesson plans and grading papers, shattered the moment Lisa pressed block. It came during her vacation in France, an impulsive adventure laden with freedom, one he wasn't invited to share. Now, in their quiet home, he felt the emptiness echoing like an unplayed note in a symphony. Emotions bubbled within him, betrayal slicing through the surface, while abandonment clung like a heavy cloak. He lacked the words to grasp it, drowning instead in an undefined fear and anger. Each corner of their quiet suburban neighborhood reminded him of shared moments, once sweet, now stale. The kids from next door laughed, a stark contrast to the silence of his own existence. "Just focus on your students," Robert whispered to himself, trying to push past the feeling of being adrift. But as he sat down to grade the stack of papers, the numbers and letters blurred into a haze of monotony. It was all so ordinary. Was this really all he was meant to do? Amid the suffocating routine, an echo of his late father stirred in his mind, urging him towards perseverance, a voice promising dignity forged in hard work. Desperate to counterbalance the weight pressing on his chest, he stumbled into a local diner. The half-cold coffee sat ignored as he stared into the swirls of cream, his mind racing with memories of ambition. His dreams of educational reform now feel like distant stars fading into an endless sky. What would it take to ignite that fire again? He questioned silently. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With a new resolve brewing inside him, he enrolled in night classes at the local university. Each lecture felt like a jolt of electricity, reawakening passions that had lain dormant for far too long. His initial childlike eagerness to absorb knowledge morphed into a desire to inspire change, reaching out to students held captive by an uninspired school system. But just then, he crossed paths with Jason, an old schoolmate now thriving as a wealthy school administrator. Jason's condescending laughter stung. "You really think you can change the system? That's laughable." Anger ignited alongside doubt, spiraling him into an inner tempest. Caught in this conflict, Robert began to question everything. Should he continue his pursuit of meaningful change or remain the man who quietly obeys the status quo? The upcoming public forum on educational reform presented itself as a bold opportunity to reclaim not just his career but his identity, evoking both fear and thrill. Yet, lingering memories of Lisa and their tangled relationship boiled beneath the surface. Was her impulsive absence a symptom of growing distance or a spark for transformation? As he stood before that microphone, heart trepidatiously thumping with each breath, an urgent message from Lisa vibrated through his pocket. The timing felt like a cruel twist. Her own struggles in France unfolded, her yearning to reconnect shimmering beneath the screen's familiar glare. Yet, what did that mean for them? Robert wrestled against the churning sensation of unresolved emotions. The stakes felt impossibly high. Would he voice his truth or retreat back into a shell of self-doubt? The crowd leaned forward, buzzing with anticipation, waiting for clarity to emerge from a tunnel of chaos. Robert's hand hovered over the microphone, uncertainty warring with a newfound determination. The crowd's expectant eyes urged him forward, yet Lisa's message vibrated like a siren song in his pocket, tethering him to emotions he had only begun to unravel. He could either remain shackled to his anguish or leap into the unknown and unfiltered truth that could very well shatter the illusions he had carefully constructed surrounding his life and marriage. Taking a deep breath, he set the phone aside, creating a mental space between himself and the turmoil within. Robert's voice broke through the tension like a crack in the sky, a tentative yet powerful declaration of his vision for reform. Education shouldn't be about compliance, it should ignite passion. Each word reverberated within him, summoning buried ambition. As he spoke, fragments of a childhood dream emerged, a classroom transformed into a sanctuary of creativity and curiosity, a place where students felt heard and valued. The room buzzed as he dared to expose his hopes, his frustrations, and his vision. Comments from Jason and whispers of doubt dissolved into the background, replaced with nods of recognition from fellow educators. This validation ignited something profound within him. He was more than just an instructor disillusioned by bureaucracy. He was a catalyst for change. After the forum, the energy swirled around him, a mix of applause and constructive criticism. There was no immediate clarity. Still, as conversations bloomed around him, Robert felt invigorated. He engaged with fellow educators who had also grown tired of the status quo, sharing strategies and resources for reform. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of belonging, a community vibrating with purpose and determination. But as he stepped outside, the cool evening air brushed against his skin, grounding him once more. Pocketing his phone brought Lisa's earlier message back to the forefront of his mind. Could their relationship be salvaged in the wake of his awakening? Robert's heart ached, torn between the passion he had embraced and the emotional investment he felt slipping through his fingers. Determined not to bury these feelings, he opened the message. Lisa's words, laced with vulnerability, spoke of her laughter echoing in the streets of Paris and her loneliness sharpened by distance. "I wish you were here," it concluded, a bare admission that suggested a longing for connection. The juxtaposition of their lives hit him hard. While he was igniting change, she was exploring a world unshared, both on different journeys that had slowly drifted apart. Was it too late to reclaim what they had lost? Would his pursuit of purpose leave space for reconnection? A tsunami of thoughts crashed over him, drowning his clarity. Perhaps their choices reflected deeper issues that mere words could not rectify. He busied himself by thinking strategically about how to balance his budding aspirations with his marriage, aware that change, both personal and professional, required courage but also compromise. As he drove home through the now familiar suburban streets, Robert's pulse raced with the thrill of rediscovery, but was dampened by an undercurrent of anxiety. Would he muster the ability to communicate this transformation to Lisa without a fight? How could he invite her to grow alongside him rather than as adversaries? Arriving home, Robert knew he faced a pivotal moment, one that could unravel or redefine the fabric of his personal life. He paused at the door, collecting his thoughts, letting the familiar structure of his home remind him both of the comfort and the constraints it held. Would he risk opening dialogues that could lead them toward healing, or would fear of vulnerability sink him back into silence? With the unwavering decision to confront the pain, not flee from it, he stepped inside, ready to navigate the complicated tangle of emotions awaiting him. Would this encounter with Lisa illuminate the shadows of their relationship, or lead to even deeper divides? The very air thickened with tension as the door closed behind him, ushering in uncertainty. The silence in the house welcomed Robert like a cold embrace as he stepped inside. The familiar scent of lavender mixed with the remnants of dinner lingered in the air, but it made his stomach churn instead of comforting him. With each crunch of the gravel beneath his shoes as he approached the living room, he braced himself for the confrontation ahead. Lisa stood by the window, looking out into the twilight, her silhouette framed by the soft glow of the street lamp outside. The sight dug into him like a splinter, each moment stretching painfully. "You're back," she said without turning, her voice betraying none of her inner turmoil. "Yeah," he replied, the single word a bridge to the chasm widening between them. She finally moved to face him, her frame tense, as though she were prepared for battle. "How was the forum?" she asked, but the way she delivered it felt more like an interrogation than a genuine inquiry. He could feel the weight of expectation in her eyes, a challenge to prove that he was more than the man she had started to doubt. "It was eye-opening. I talked about education reform, about igniting passion in students." A slight twitch crossed her brow. "Is that what this is about? Passion?" "Not just passion." Robert took a step closer, needing to close the space between their worlds. "It's about vision, which I don't have much of in my personal life right now." Lisa crossed her arms, defensively, a gesture that stung him deeper than he anticipated. So you want a vision for us? Is that it? No, he hesitated, wrestling with the tempest swirling inside him. I want to reconnect. I want us to explore what we've let drift away, but it feels like you've been elsewhere. Is that how you think I feel? That I've been elsewhere? She shot back, incredulity slipping into frustration. You mentioned passion but ignored the context. While you've been reforming ideals, I've been learning how to exist without you embracing my solitude. Her words landed squarely on him like punches, but beneath the anger, he sensed deep vulnerability. Her desire for connection mirrored his own, tangled with the fears they both harbored about a future they no longer knew how to navigate. Lisa, I didn't intend to leave you behind, he said, dipping into sincerity. I wanted to invite you into this growth. To see if you might want to explore it with me, share ideas. Not everyone wants to be a part of some idealistic crusade, Robert. And not everyone can just restructure their lives around a passion project, especially not when the foundation feels shaky. The truth of her words struck, reverberating in the silence that followed. He had spent years building walls to shelter his disappointments, never fully grasping the cracks beneath the surface of their marriage. So, what now? He asked, daring to tread toward the unresolved tension looming in the air between them. Are we to pretend everything is fine while you're halfway across the world? For a moment, vulnerability flickered across Lisa's features, and he saw the flicker of a yearning for reconciliation. I don't know, Robert. I don't know how to fix this, especially when you're still figuring out what you want. The hurt reflected in her eyes was a raw reminder her disappointment, alongside his new aspirations, seemed to exist in constant opposition. Still, he felt an almost palpable urge to find ways to bridge the gap, to reignite the warmth they once radiated. Maybe figuring out what I want is precisely why I want to talk to you, Robert argued, his voice low but firm. You have a vision too, don't you? Paris changed you the experiences, the freedom. She shifted, her expression softening as hints of curiosity crept in. What is this leading to? I'm prepared to confront what's broken between us. His heart raced with the weight of those words. Will you let me in? Can we be honest about our journeys apart and perhaps how we might come back together? Lisa stared at him for a long moment, the shadows and light of the room playing on her face. The walls they had built around each other felt ready to crumble or perhaps could be rebuilt in a new alliance. As her gaze held his, a flicker of possibility sparked. But would they dare to step over the threshold, or would fear of vulnerability keep them shackled to their separate paths? Their future hung in the balance, precariously poised between reconciliation and the abyss of their discontent. Could this be the moment that defined or destroyed everything they had? The evening air felt notably heavier as Robert absorbed Lisa's scrutiny. He had summoned the courage to address the fray in their lives, yet uncertainty clouded his resolve. What if she decided to retreat again, investing more in her solitude than in the remnants of their shared dreams? He could feel the pulse of his heart matching the quiet rhythm of the night outside, intertwined with his turmoil. Let us consider it a journey, he blurted out, his voice breaking the fragile silence. A journey back to understanding what we want not just as individuals, but as a couple. The words spilled out, yet he sensed the trepidation looming in the corners of his mind. What does that even mean? Lisa asked, tilting her head slightly, her defensiveness still coiled tight. For too long, I've been focused solely on my ambitions, isolating myself. I need a partner to embark on this journey with me, but more importantly, I need to understand your perspective. To truly listen. Her posture shifted almost imperceptibly. Was that a glimmer of openness? He continued, fueled by the spark of possibility. I'm learning that it's not enough to just chase after my goals. I've neglected the importance of collaboration, of mutual aspirations. Lisa exhaled slowly, and in that moment, the tension between them seemed to gather energy. You're saying that as if it's a new revelation, Robert. But we've been drifting for years. I felt like I was yelling over a wall, while you were busy fortifying it. He winced at her words, the sharp truth cutting deeper than he anticipated. With each proclamation of her hurt, he recognized the role he had unwittingly played in their disconnection. I'm not defending my actions, he murmured, his gaze earnest. I'm trying to convey how monumental this realization is for me. I want to break down those walls. A flicker of confusion darted across her face. He could almost see gears turning inside her, weighing the options laid before them like cards on a table. And how exactly do you propose we do that? By being honest even when it's uncomfortable. Robert steadied his breath. I want us to be vulnerable with each other. To share our experiences, our hopes, and our fears, even if they feel fragmented. Fragile honesty and grand ambitions? She scoffed lightly, but there was a hint of intrigue creeping into her tone. You think that might lead us back? It's a start, he answered, the conviction steadying within him. Maybe what we need is to redirect our passion, not just toward our professional lives, but toward one another. To inspire instead of isolate. Lisa took a step back, folding her arms. I'm not ready for another empty promise. How many times have you said that before? A wave of frustration surged within him. You're right, I've fallen short. But instead of letting that shut me down, I want to change. I want our conversations to be different, to challenge each other and grow. To be real. What if we're just prolonging the inevitable? She probed, her eyes narrowing slightly. That question tightened his chest. He knew the stakes had never been higher. I would rather confront the inevitable than be passive. Because pretending to be okay doesn't build anything. Silence stretched between them, thick and palpable. In that moment, Robert felt the heartbeat of doubt echoing beneath his resolve. What if honesty led them to an unavoidable fracture? I can't be your catalyst for transformation, Robert, Lisa whispered, the softness of her voice almost overshadowed by the weight of her words. You have to want it for yourself. Her statement hung heavily between them, filled with an unsettling reality. Could he, in fact, pursue this new path independently enough to inspire her take her own steps? The flickering street lamp outside illuminated the doubts swirling inside him, the weight of their conversation crashing against his visions of success. But nevertheless, his determination shifted. What if we both redefine ourselves simultaneously? He offered, a hint of optimism in his tone. A collective rebirth? Maybe that could anchor us more than anything else. Lisa positioned herself back toward the window, and for a moment, he feared she was unwilling to engage further. But he refused to allow despair to envelop him. Will you join me, Lisa? We can define our next chapter together or separately, but let us discuss where we stand. Just as he uttered those words, she turned slightly, her eyes shimmering with the remnants of suppressed emotion. I don't know if I can just dive in. Then start slowly, he suggested, urging his thoughts to flow steadily. We can take small steps toward that honesty. Let us explore what a shared journey could look like. Her expression softened yet remained shrouded in uncertainty. The conversation opened up avenues yet unexplored, but the fear of vulnerability weighed heavily within her as it did him. Not knowing how far they could trust one another loomed above them like a dark thundercloud. Even as they both stood on the brink, would they leap together, or would hesitation keep them suspended in indecision? The night air swirled with questions, as possibilities and perhaps something deeper hung tantalizingly between them, waiting to be discovered. The stillness of the room began to murmur with unspoken fears as Robert sensed a pivotal shift brewing within him. Lisa's tentative response stirred something deep, a profound realization unfurled amidst the tension. Change wasn't contingent solely on collective movement. The real metamorphosis had to ignite within himself first. As he considered her wavering gaze, the weight of indecision pressed upon him like a physical force. He felt his heart step forward, leading his thoughts into a clearer space. What would it mean for him to reshape his professional ambitions alongside personal growth? He envisioned dedication no longer distributed solely toward his career, but redirected to rekindle a partnership that had slipped through their fingers like sand. I can start fresh, he whispered, not entirely comprehending the words until they left his mouth. I can find ways to invest in this relationship that match the passion I pour into my work. He felt an urgency course through him, driving him to clarify his intentions. Yes, I've chased success, but at what cost? The question emerged unfiltered. He envisioned the late nights cloaked in an office's fluorescent glow, each completed project a badge of honor, yet weighed against a growing silence at home. Was he only chasing accolades, neglecting the real measure of fulfillment from the love he'd nearly allowed to diminish? Lisa hesitated, caught off guard by his sudden introspection. As if sensing a ripple of honesty in his vulnerability, her defenses softened ever so slightly. Are you saying you'll really work on it? That you won't just revert back to what's comfortable? Yes, he assured, a ripple of newfound energy pulsing through him. He wasn't sure how this would translate into concrete actions, but he felt ready to confront the expectations applied to their relationship. I'll prioritize us. I want to understand the benefits of balance and the weight of our combined aspirations. The magnitude of trying something different loomed large, but Robert realized that his professional accomplishments had been built upon calculated risks. Why not apply that rationale here? Let us create actionable steps, he proposed, leaning into the emerging resolve. What if I infused our daily lives with small, intentional moments? Little gestures that remind us both we are on a shared path? Lisa's brows furrowed slightly as she navigated the shifting tides of their interaction. Like what? You think one dinner a week can fix everything? A flicker of frustration ignited within him, but the fire simmered down as he realized she raised a valid point. No, but I think starting there could lead to bigger changes. Simple conversations, really listening to one another without distractions. What if we made it a rule to leave our phones off during dinner? Or go for walks and talk? The prospect seemed so mundane, yet Robert understood its gravity. It was about weaving the threads of their lives back together, one small stitch at a time, allowing their connection to grow stronger even amidst the chaotic fabric of life. And if it doesn't work? What if we end up failing again? The tremor in Lisa's voice revealed deeper wounds, past disappointments waiting to resurface. Failure won't be a verdict. It would be feedback, he replied, perhaps more to himself than to her. Every setback can teach us something about ourselves, about this partnership. It's about choosing to learn rather than to surrender. She watched him closely, shadows playing across her expression. The corners of her mouth curved upward momentarily, suggesting a hint of hope amidst skepticism. You seem different, she said slowly, her words tender yet laced with caution. I am, he admitted, his internal landscape expanding with this newfound awareness. I have to be. For us. But as an invisible wall still lingered between them, swaths of doubt clouded Lisa's eyes. Would she truly be willing to participate in this exploration? As seconds stretched into silence, the faint echo of his confidence faded, and unease crept back in. Robert leaned in, searching for the right words. In doing this together, you won't just be following. I want you to steer too. What would you envision a path forward to be? Her brow furrowed again, deep in thought, his question challenging the boundaries she had grown comfortable inside. Perhaps remaining in her solitude felt safer, but would isolating herself truly stave off pain? As the night deepened, the air heavy with their vulnerability, the weight of their unspoken decisions loomed. Would they truly take the first steps toward unraveling years of stagnation, or would they preserve the familiarity of their separate walls? In this quiet moment of truth, Robert couldn't help but question his path. What he didn't know was whether their dialogue would unravel the barriers, or if it would reveal a chasm too wide to bridge. The soft glow of the bedside lamp illuminated Robert's thoughts, scattered images of their discussions swirling like a charged storm. He flipped over, the sheets cool against his skin, but his mind remained restless. The prospect of a significant shift both excited and terrified him. Each small gesture he had proposed felt monumental, with the weight of their past lurking in the shadows. What if the dinners transformed into stilted conversations? What if their walks were filled with awkward silences? Could they truly navigate this tension? With a determined exhale, he committed to shaping this potential energy into tangible steps. Yet uncertainty clung to him, gnawing at the edges of his newfound resolve. The following day felt charged with promise. As he prepared for work, he glanced at his reflection in the mirror. There was a different look in his eyes, a glimmer of purpose. He chided himself not to view their situation as a series of obstacles, but as opportunities for growth. What are my priorities today? He mused while brushing his teeth, the menial task grounding him even amidst heightened anticipation. Ensuring that he approached every moment, whether at work or at home, with intention was key. In the office, the pace felt frenetic, but within the chaos, Robert found clarity. He approached his manager, ready to address a looming deadline with confidence. "I'd like to recalibrate our project timeline if we can strategize effectively," he suggested, watching the recognition spark in his superior's eyes. This was who he needed to be communicative and forward-thinking. "Robert, I appreciate your initiative," his manager replied, visibly lightening the atmosphere. As they dissected the timeline and divided tasks, Robert felt a rush of exhilaration, a brief flicker of his old ambition reigniting. Yet, even as he reveled in the satisfaction of accomplishment, jealousy snaked through him when thoughts of Lisa entered his mind. Would she share this experience? Would they both celebrate professional victories now, as they had once dreamed? Returning home that evening, he found Lisa on the couch, a blanket wound around her like a cocoon. She glanced up, and a sliver of vulnerability reflected in her eyes. A rush of resolve flowed through him. Today would not be just a continuation of their routine. "Hi, how was your day?" he ventured, settling next to her, drawing her attention. "It was fine," she replied, a hint of evasiveness shadowing her voice. "I'm getting better at work." "We finally made progress on that project I've been sweating over," said Robert, hoping to bridge the chasm with optimism. "That's great," Lisa responded, although the enthusiasm in her voice didn't reach her eyes. The dimness of the room seemed to swallow his excitement whole. "You know, I'm really trying to figure this out," he continued cautiously, his palms flattening against his thighs. "What if we celebrated these wins together? Maybe we can set aside some time this weekend just for us a proper date?" A fleeting flicker of interest grazed her expression, but hesitation clung like a fog. "What if I just want to focus on myself for a bit? I don't know if I can handle putting effort into anything else right now." The implication struck like a blow. Each word felt like a wall rising between them, barricading discussions of their shared future. "Is that what you really want?" he pressed, forcing an honesty he hoped would encourage the same from her. This was uncharted territory, riddled with uneasy potential. As the air thickened with unspoken truths, he realized they both teetered on the brink of reticence. "I just don't want to end up where we were before," she confessed, and he sensed the longing masked behind her guarded demeanor. "Neither do I," he admitted, disappointment lacing his voice. But his determination surged with the understanding of their shared vulnerabilities. "But grappling with these feelings doesn't mean we quit trying." In that moment, two options unfolded before them. They could resist, allowing the crushing weight of their past failures to anchor them in the present, or they could confront the challenge, harness the complexities within, and learn to navigate the precarious waters together. "I don't have all the answers, but what I do know is that I want to fight for this," he stated, a steadiness now evident in his voice. The silence that followed felt more profound, weighty with possibilities. Yet, beneath the surface, Robert felt the stakes evolve. Could they truly decipher these tangled emotions and emerge stronger? Would Lisa be willing to venture into the unknown with him, breaking the barriers that had confined them? As he caught her gaze, he sensed their future lay in the balance, yearning for clarity amidst uncertainty. How far could they navigate this transformation together, and what hurdles awaited them on the horizon? The air crackled with an energy that felt foreign upon waking. Robert's thoughts were scattered, racing through the remnants of their conversation. It had been a week since they last had a real connection, and each day felt like a slow march through fog. He pressed his palm against the cool surface of the bedside table, grounding himself as he stared into the abyss of his uncertainty. It took him a moment to wrestle his thoughts into focus. Lisa had tried to carve out space for herself, a choice that resonated with him, yet it also left a bitter aftertaste. What could he do to respect her need for solitude while still seeking to nurture their partnership? As he prepared for work, the mirror reflected an image of a man standing at a crossroads. What lay on the other side of his current struggles? The office buzzed with a visceral energy. Deadlines loomed like dark clouds overhead. But today, Robert embraced the chaos. He decided to lead a brainstorming session with his team, something he had often shied away from. "I know we've been stuck on this part of the project," he began, his voice steady but infused with an underlying urgency. "Let us not just discuss how to execute our tasks, but also how to innovate within our constraints. As ideas flowed from the group, Robert felt a keen sense of connection. He was stepping into a more authentic version of himself, a leader who wasn't afraid to embrace creativity and uncertainty. Yet, the exhilaration was fleeting, replaced again by memories of Lisa, her laughter, her support, the fleeting moments wrapped in shared purpose that now felt like distant echoes. At home that evening, Robert found himself pacing before the couch, lost in thought. He wanted to reach out to Lisa, to show her that he understood her desire for independence. But every time he tried to voice these thoughts, self-doubt snared him. Would she see it as interference? The emptiness of their shared spaces weighed heavily on his heart. "Hey, can we talk?" He finally called out, the words escaping before his resolve could wane. Lisa turned, her expression a mixture of fatigue and curiosity, but tension rippled in the silence that followed. "About what?" she asked, her voice neutral. I've been thinking a lot about us. About how we can support each other while still embracing our individual journeys." His words felt charged, each syllable carefully considered against a backdrop of fear. "We need to find a balance. How can I support your need for time alone?" Lisa's gaze softened yet bore a hesitance that mirrored his own. "I know we both needed space. I'm struggling to articulate what I feel. I don't want to push you away, but I also need to explore who I am without us. But what if this journey brought us closer?" He fought to keep desperation out of his voice. "What if we discovered things about ourselves and each other while still apart? It doesn't have to mean being disconnected." "I wish it were that simple," she murmured, the vulnerability in her tone piercing through his anxieties. "I need to fully understand where I stand, and that might take time." A wave of emotions crashed over Robert. Each of Lisa's words pierced his lingering doubts, breaking through his hesitation. Yes, she was searching for herself, but he longed for a connection where both of their journeys could be honored. If they could embrace change rather than fear it, there might be an opportunity for a new kind of intimacy. Determined, Robert took a step closer. What if we set goals, each of us taking initiative in our personal space, but finding moments to share our growth? It could be a way to empower both of us. Her eyes glimmered with the haze of contemplation. "Maybe, but it sounds like a risk." "We're already taking risks," he replied, his conviction laced with urgency. "Let us not lose sight of what we mean to each other amid all this uncertainty." The silence that wrapped around them vibrated with possibilities, laden with the tensions of their desires and fears. Neither stated their next move, but Robert felt beneath the surface a tremor of hope and resolve. They stood on the precipice of a pathway, uncertain yet shimmering with the promise of self-discovery. As he watched Lisa process his words, he wondered what might happen when they dared to confront their fears, plotting a course through vulnerability together. What obstacles awaited them on this untraveled road, and would they emerge renewed or falter in retreat? Morning glinted through the slats of the blinds as Robert stared into his coffee cup, lost in thoughts that swirled like steam rising from the dark liquid. The conversation from the night before had stirred something inside him, igniting a desire not just for connection with Lisa, but also for deeper self-exploration. The weight of uncertainty lingered, but so did a flicker of resolve. He couldn't retreat into inaction again. Stepping forward with intention felt like his only option. Arriving at the office, he felt that familiar hum of energy encircling his colleagues. Yet today, it was different. He aspired to engage on a personal level, pushing past the mundane small talk and redefining the way he interacted with his team. A part of him longed to share his own struggle for balance, perhaps opening up might inspire others. He slipped into the break room, knowing today was the day for honesty. "Hey everyone," he announced, leaning against the counter. "I was thinking we could share our personal goals alongside our project deadlines. It might help us hold each other accountable and feel more connected." The reaction was mixed. Some nodded in interest while others glanced skeptical. Robert's heart raced as he pushed forward. "For example, I'm trying to allow more space in my life for personal growth, similar to what many of us are juggling right now." The words hung in the air, and he felt exposed, but relieved at the same time. One of his team members, Sarah, chimed in. "That's actually a great idea. Sharing our goals might break down some of these walls." The The conversation took off from there, each person revealing not only professional aspirations, but also personal dreams and challenges. In that moment, Robert felt a wave of empowerment wash over him. It became evident that vulnerability had created a bridge, drawing them closer despite the various walls they had put up. Later that afternoon, an unexpected email arrived. His supervisor, Tom, offered him the chance to lead an upcoming project, one that would require him to not only manage tasks, but also inspire others. The opportunity felt as if it were ripped from his thoughts. Could he step into a role that demanded steadfast leadership? Doubts whispered in the corners of his mind, but he just tasted the sweetness of connection elicited by shared vulnerability. This was his moment. "Thank you for the opportunity," he responded, determination threading through his words. "I'm ready to lead." The email felt like a commitment that transcended the project itself. It was a pledge to grow through challenges, much like he aimed to do in his partnership with Lisa. When he arrived home, he found Lisa sitting quietly in their living room, an aura of contemplation embracing her. They exchanged glances, and Robert could sense the unvoiced tension that coiled between them. "I had a breakthrough today," he said, breaking the silence. "It's amazing how opening up can foster connection." Lisa studied him, and for a moment, he worried she would retreat again into distance. But instead, she asked, "What is the change you're feeling?" "I realized it's okay to be vulnerable," he admitted. "It's not just about me, it's about us. I want to create more space for both of us to grow, even if it's different paths." His heart raced as he observed her expression shift, the way her eyes widened and softened all at once, conveying layers of emotion. "Maybe we need to redefine what us means," she replied slowly. "What if we also included our struggles and our goals?" Robert felt a spark ignite within him. They could transform their paths into shared journeys of self-discovery. But just as quickly, a cloud of uncertainty began to gather. Would she feel as empowered to share her struggles as he did? As the weight of possibilities settled over them, Robert sensed he was on the brink of a major shift in both his personal and professional life. The thought both thrilled and terrified him. They stood at a crossroads, a shared risk that implied there would be revelations lurking around the corner. To navigate this path together, where do we begin? He asked, feeling the tension of anticipation in the air. "By being brave," Lisa replied softly, an undercurrent of hope threading through her words. Just as the dialogue revealed its potential for growth, an unexpected noise drew their attention, a phone pinging with a notification. It was a message from Lisa's sister. The words were brief but charged. "Can't wait to see you guys at the cabin next weekend." In that instant, Robert felt the air shift once more. What would this trip mean for them at this pivotal moment? Would it deepen their efforts, or would they stumble back into the shadows of silence? The future loomed before them, swirling with both promise and doubt, ready to unfold in ways they could never anticipate. Robert stood in the cramped living room, the phone notification reverberating in his mind long after reading Lisa's sister's message. The cabin trip loomed ahead, a fixed point in time that hinted at both escape and confrontation. Anticipation gnawed at the edges of his resolve. Would this getaway reignite the connection he hoped to foster with Lisa, or drive them further apart as they retreated into their individual spheres? The following days were a whirlwind of preparation and looming uncertainty. Robert navigated the office with an invigorated spirit, buoyed by his recent commitment to leadership. He engaged his colleagues, gathering their aspirations and ideas for the upcoming project. The shared vulnerability blossomed into a newfound camaraderie, a motivator that made him feel buoyant. Ironically, however, the greater the enthusiasm he cultivated at work, the more isolated he felt regarding his relationship with Lisa. Every moment spent leading discussions or brainstorming strategies felt juxtaposed against the silence that filled their home. Late at night, while she immersed herself in her solitary pursuits, Robert wrestled with drafts for the project. There were glimmers of insight in his writing that sparked hope. He was transforming into the leader he wished to be. Yet, he caught himself yearning for the same energy with Lisa, a heart-to-heart that felt distant but essential. Hesitation hung over him like a thick fog. Could he push past his apprehensions to engage her in this vulnerable state? The night before their trip, he broached the subject again. "Lisa," he said as he sliced vegetables in their tiny kitchen, "I believe we can reach deeper levels of understanding with each other on this trip." She looked up, surprised yet contemplative. "You think so?" "It's an opportunity to discuss our goals again, maybe share our fears in a way we haven't before." Her brow furrowed. "You're not worried it will just lead to more tension?" Robert felt a pang of uncertainty. "We'll only know if we try. It could be our first real step toward defining us anew." The evening wore on and, although a tentative agreement was reached, Robert couldn't shake an undercurrent of fear. What if Lisa didn't feel as liberated as he did to share her struggles? The cabin proved charming, with wooden beams and picturesque views, but as Robert set foot inside, a bittersweet tension settled in. The rustic atmosphere was supposed to offer comfort, yet the invisible barrier between him and Lisa felt amplified. They settled in and established a routine, baking together, long walks, a board game, but each moment felt slightly forced, like actors rehearsing lines rather than partners sharing a life. An unexpected storm swirled outside, forcing them indoors one evening. The wind howled outside the windows, echoing the turmoil within him. Seizing the moment, Robert turned to Lisa, her gaze absorbed in the flickering flames of the fireplace. "Let us talk about what's really going on, Lisa. We owe it to ourselves." She hesitated, her expression shifting. "You've been so eager to grow, Robert, and I appreciate that. But there's something you might not understand." The breath she held seemed to weigh heavily with unspoken emotions. "Like what?" He probed softly, heart racing, sensing a pivotal moment ahead. For a brief moment, their eyes locked, an unspoken understanding passing through the tension. "I'm struggling, too," she admitted quietly, "but I don't know how to articulate it. It's like part of me feels unworthy of sharing." The words hung in the air as if they could transform the very fabric of their relationship. This wasn't just Robert's moment of transformation. They teetered on the precipice of redefining their journey together. Before Robert could respond, the flickering lights above him began to dim and then snuff out, plunging them into shadow. Emotions now raw faced obscurity. They were left in darkness, both literally and metaphorically, as the wind continued to whip outside. How would they navigate this unexplored territory? The silence that followed cradled both anxiety and an unrecognized opportunity for revelation, leaving them poised for the transformative conversation that loomed ahead. As Robert grasped for something to say, a chilling thought gripped him. What if this moment unraveled everything he thought he knew about love, vulnerability, and connection? In that instant, he moved to reach for her hand, bracing himself for what awaited in the dark. Trust hung in the air, feeling both a fragile blessing and a daunting challenge. In the enveloping darkness, Robert's heart thumped in sync with the raging storm outside. The shadows cast by the fireplace flickered like indecision, but he felt a surge of determination as he reached for Lisa's hand. Her warmth ignited a flicker of hope amidst the chaos surrounding them. "We're in this together, Lisa," he said softly, the sincerity tightening around the air like a bond. "We can't let fear dictate our conversations any longer." "I know, but it feels safer to remain silent," she confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "Each time I've opened up, I worry it only brings more distance." "Safety can sometimes look like isolation," he replied, his grip on her hand firming. "We're not meant to navigate these tumultuous waters alone. We need to share the depths of our struggles together. That's how connections are forged." Her eyes met his, the flicker of vulnerability present but accompanied by uncertainty. "But how do we start? I don't even know where to begin." "Start small. Just tell me what you're feeling right now," he encouraged, feeling the significance of this moment swell. With a deep breath, she whispered, "I'm feeling lost. While you've discovered a renewed sense of passion, my path feels obscured and confusing. I want to be supportive of your growth, but I'm unsure of my own direction." The revelation landed as though the world had shifted beneath them. Robert's heart ached at her honesty. He recalled when they were once buoyed by dreams they shared. Those currents had changed course, and now they drifted, trying to find their way back to each other. Your goals matter, he assured, squeezing her hand. We can't rebuild without addressing the foundation. Let's set a plan together. What would you like to explore about yourself? As Lisa considered the question, her brow furrowed deeper, hinting at a suppressed eagerness. I've always wanted to paint again, she admitted, hesitance lingering in her tone. I used to find joy in the creativity, the freedom of expression. But I tucked it away, thinking it was a luxury I couldn't afford time for. A wash of understanding washed over Robert. That sounds beautiful. Why not carve out time for it? We could even join a local painting class together, he proposed, his enthusiasm contagious. You can reignite that spark, and I'll support you in this. Her eyes glimmered with intrigue amidst the shadows, longing to express herself. Is that really okay? You want to invest in my creative pursuits? Absolutely. Your happiness fuels our relationship. It's time I recognize how essential our individual aspirations are for our union, he replied, clarity slicing through his previous self-doubt. The corners of her mouth curved into a tentative smile. What about you, Robert? This victory you've tasted at work, what's next for you? The simplicity of the question urged him to reflect. I'm leading the upcoming project, but beyond that, I want to cultivate an environment that fosters growth. Our focus on vulnerability. I've realized that success isn't just about achieving goals, but ensuring I draw strength from those I'm connected with along the way. The flicker of the firelight mirrored the hope kindling between them, and with each word, Robert shed the layers of fear that had held him captive. Then, let's take those steps together, she urged, the strength in her voice reaffirming their path forward. We can hold each other accountable to our goals, sharing our progress openly. The idea resonated with Robert. This would not merely be a project, it was a commitment to genuine partnership. What if we set aside specific times to check in? To prioritize ourselves and the intimacy of sharing our journeys? Agreed, Lisa said, conviction radiating from her newfound openness. Honesty, even when uncomfortable, will be our cornerstone. As they spoke, the room transitioned from darkness to illumination, not just from the rustic lights flickering back to life, but from the palpable energy rising between them. Vulnerability had paved the way for deeper connection, solidifying Robert's resolve to break down barriers. With determination stitched into their hearts, they envisioned a future where personal and professional growth intersected in exploration instead of the isolating paths they once trudged. Robert and Lisa stood on the brink of a new beginning that transcended aspirations. Their transformative journeys would interweave into a dynamic synergy that might prove stronger than the discontent that once separated them. Together, as dusk turned to dawn, they embraced the promise of renewed aspirations, reassured that each small step forward, fueled by vulnerability, would amplify their existence as individuals and as partners. This was not merely a resolution. It was a definitive reawakening, one rooted in trust, acceptance, and the unyielding power of shared vision. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.